The Pokemon anime's big Ash vs. Leon finale is inbound, but we have another serious topic on the table, so let's talk about it. Hey Charles, it's everyone. How are you today? With the November 18th release date of the Pokemon Scarlet and Violet video games looming, Pokemon Journeys is just about out of time, unless it receives a groundbreaking first-in-series extension into 2023. And with maybe one episode left after the Ash vs. Leon 3-parter, fans have been left scratching their heads as to how the series can possibly tie up all the loose ends. But even bigger questions were posed just recently when an ongoing Twitter meltdown in response to the show's slew of breaks and recaps prompted one of the anime's animation directors to bat a bludger back at fans, which fanned the flames but also cast a light on dark places. The initial tweet, as well as the spiral of debate and insights that dripped out of it, drew some attention to things that are really worth thinking about, and there is a lot to unpack, so today's plan is to 1. Explain why so many fans are pissed about the series, 2. Provide a detailed play-by-play of the big Pokemon anime staff Twitter fiasco, 3. Dig into what is really happening behind the curtains, and 4. Wrap up the chat with a look to the future. So without further ado, let's bust out the juicy nuggets. I think it goes without saying that Pokemon Journeys has been a bumpy ride, and whether you think the show has been an aimless hodgepodge of storylines that never went anywhere, or a strong slice-of-life experience that serviced viewers old and new, will depend on what you wanted to get out of it. But I don't think that anyone would disagree that the last few months of the anime have been especially controversial to say the least. With the Masters 8 tournament bringing together the greatest trainers in the world at long last, but also polarizing fans with inconsistent animation quality, herky-jerky pacing, one-shot knockouts, and a semi-finals battle of champions that was more or less reduced to a slideshow, as well as not just 1 but 4 broadcasting breaks and not just 1 but 4 clip show recap episodes, all coming smack dab in the middle of the tournament. Yes, in the 4 months since the Masters 8 tournament kicked off on June 17th up until the finals began on October 21st, we will have had just 10 legitimate episodes of varying quality, broken up by no less than 8 recaps/breaks. And if that doesn't scream production issues, then I don't know what does. I do feel sympathy for the team tasked with cobbling together such a hotly anticipated climax under such extreme resource constraints. I do think they have done a decent job playing the hand they have been dealt, and I am genuinely excited for the big Ash vs. Leon finale, but I can also see why many fans have been very upset, as we have never seen a series go off the rails like this in Pokemon anime history, and it's pretty shocking to see it happen in the midst of an all-star tournament that fans have been dreaming of for decades. Of course, the Corsola Measles outbreak that initially put the show on hiatus has obviously been a major antagonist to fans and creators alike, but holy moly, a weekly anime with 4 recaps and 4 breaks in just 4 months? As you might expect, the announcement of a 4th break followed by a 4th recap, immediately following a 3rd recap and an inconsequential Go episode that's only purpose was to walk the Go Bro out of the building, turned the official Japanese Pokemon anime Twitter account into a dumpster fire if there ever was one. And it's in the midst of this carnage that the Wappa Sui fiasco begins. Wappa Sui is the Twitter handle of Chiaki Kurakazu, an animation director who joined OLM a couple years back out of a love for Pokemon, and one of several animation directors who work on the current Pokemon anime. As Kurakazu later explains, they felt the need to step into the midst of the Pokemon Journeys Twitter meltdown because they were simply tired of seeing the official account get trashed by filthy, hateful comments pouring out of the mouths of some of the more uncouth kids on the block. And we are going to run through the full saga, so grab some popcorn or another tasty morsel that will not clog your arteries with salt and fat, and let's jump right in. Taking to Twitter, Kurakazu opened a firing shot with the following tweet to fans. If you despise the recap episodes that much, why don't you just go back and watch the past episodes to bring back the excitement that you felt back then? It's not hard to pick up on the spice between the lines, so it comes as no surprise that quite a few Twitter people were rubbed the wrong way by the provocative tone of Kurakazu's remarks and started hurling tomatoes at the creator, prompting one Japanese Twitter user to step in and drop some real talk. I get that OLM is swamped with a large number of anime, but the perspectives of creators and viewers are different, so this sort of inflammatory tone does not leave a good impression. Especially coming from a creator, this comes off like you're saying, don't poke your nose into our work. Nicely said, and Kurakazu responds, I see. In hindsight, it could certainly be taken like that. At the time, I spoke harshly because I was emotional, but I was definitely at fault. Thank you so much for your valuable opinion. Even with my limited abilities, I will continue to do my best to make the Pokemon anime enjoyable. Thereafter, Kurakazu quote tweeted their earlier quip with an apology to fans. I'm sorry for making this inconsiderate tweet to our fans. comments. I will keep it up as a reminder moving forward, and thank you very much for all your input. Then they added, that said, please don't criticize the official Twitter account with such foul and harsh language. When we see stuff like that, it makes us wonder who we're making the show for. If you're going to do that, please keep it to your own timeline rather than on the official account. I think it is important that fans do hit the official channels to have their voices heard, but I also agree that it would be nice if every AniPoke PR account tweet did not devolve into a magmatic goop of hate comments. Then again, this is the internet, and to bring the issue back to the root cause, one fan laid out the reason beneath the rage in simple terms. It's not that we hate the recap episodes, but that everyone wants to see the continuation of the story. To which Kurakazu replies, like you said, it's exciting to see a new episode lined up for the following week. I truly understand the disappointment when it turns out to be a recap. However, there are also human beings on the production side of the show, and since it's a long-running anime, the schedule is naturally going to hit some bumps here and there. I don't know the reason behind the recaps, but I hope that the break weeks can be an opportunity for you to revisit the past episodes, as well as the emotions and excitement that came with them, even of the scenes not covered in the recap episodes. Clip show recaps consisting largely of scrolling text and screenshots are a tough sell on the best of days, but Kurakazu does bring up two good points that people tend to overlook. One, that there are living, breathing humans trying to get by on the other side of the anime, and two, that the show has been running almost non-stop for over 25 years, which is both insane and respectable. And while the timing of the bumps are particularly unfortunate in this case, the people at OLM probably deserve a bit of leeway. And speaking of creators and their well-being, a fan who appears to have created an account for the express purpose of Google translating comments into Japanese to fire off at Kurakazu requested that the animation director provide an explanation for all of the monkey business that has been unfolding on the production side of things. To which Kurakazu simply replied, "We don't have enough people." And this statement sparked a wave of concern that spread all the way from Twitter to YouTube to various news outlets to Granny's ears. One Twitter user was quick to investigate the truth of Kurakazu's words, taking a look at the Pokemon anime creator OLM's current company profile webpage, as well as digging up an older version of the page from 2018 to compare any changes in personnel numbers. I booted up the Wayback Machine to take a look myself, and sure enough, prior to March 2022, the last time the employee counts were updated was in June of 2018, so we don't have any intermediary numbers to work with. But as we can see, in June 2018, the company employed 216 employees and 117 project contract staff. And by comparison, the March 2022 count lists only 204 employees and no project contract staff. Quite the difference, and the personnel numbers of OLM's digital branch tell the same tale. Of course, it is possible that the website simply no longer lists the project contract staff, and it's also possible that former project contract staff were released in the final quarter of fiscal year 2022, just before the figures were updated in March. Not that I really buy either of these lines of thought. After all, in order to survive the battering of the pandemic, many companies in Japan did release their contract employees en masse once their contracts expired, the Weiwei and her co-workers included. And a quick back of the envelope calculation of OLM's TV anime series output in recent years seems to corroborate the substantial drop in manpower. This is a pretty rough sketch, but here I've taken all of the OLM anime that have been broadcast since 2018 and mapped them by the quarters during which they were rolled out on TV. Obviously, production occurs prior to broadcasting, but if you bump the green bars back a few months, it should give us a rough approximation of what OLM's work pipeline looks like at any given time, indicating quite the drop from a workload of 11 to 13 anime TV series broadcast per quarter in 2018 through to the third quarter of 2019 to just 6 to 7 shows from 2021 onward. In other words, OLM's anime TV series output is now sitting at roughly half of what it was back when they had 216 employees and 117 project contract staff on board. And when you're taking on barely half of the projects that you were a few years ago, you are simply not going to be maintaining 117 contract workers who stick around picking daisies. So presumably the contract workers were cut loose in waves as their work on a given TV anime series was completed. The extent to which the Corsola measles pandemic has wrought havoc at the individual company level is difficult to assess without a whole lot more information on the table, but what is clear according to the 2021 edition of the Association of Japanese Animation's Anime Industry Report is that the pandemic caused Japan's anime industry growth to decline for the first time in 10 years. as revenues dropped 3.5% from 2019 to 2020, and rising production costs eroded profits, with issues such as delayed shows and decreased TV anime revenues hitting some companies harder than others. And not every large studio is hitting Demon Slayer home runs, so I think it is safe to say that during the pandemic, plenty of these studios have shed their fat and tightened their belts in order to make it out in one piece, and this probably includes OLM. As for the Pokemon anime itself, it's difficult to say exactly how the human resource count allocated specifically to OLM's ongoing bread and butter Pocket Monsters project was impacted, but based on what we have seen this summer, I think it is safe to assume that they are certainly not overstaffed. So when it comes down to it, as much as I do question the creative direction of Pokémon Journeys at times, I also feel bad for the creators tasked with pleasing an unpleasable fanbase under the current circumstances. The anime industry in Japan has always been a rough place to work. And particularly as an animator, the pay is low, the hours are long, and job security is a tightrope walk for the many freelancers and contract staff upon which the industry thrives. People are struggling to get by as they grind away their lives to entertain viewers, to bring smiles to millions of faces, and accordingly, it's little wonder why creators like Chiaki Kurakazu might inject a little bit of snark into their pushback to the repugnant, childish vitriol flung at them on a daily basis as they thanklessly labor away. There are plenty of bones to pick with Pokemon Journeys, but Kurakazu is right that it certainly would not hurt fans to consider that there are humans with feelings listening in at the other end of the line, and to accordingly lay out their criticisms with a bit of grace. Even so, here we are just over a month away from the release of Pokemon Scarlet and Violet, and regardless of what chaos may be unfolding behind the scenes, one has to wonder how exactly Pokemon Journeys will play out its final hand. There are some who believe that Pokemon Journeys' endless stream of recaps and breaks are actually the product of behind-the-scenes adjustments that will see the series continue on until spring of 2023. And I suppose that an extension still is possible, but I find it unlikely given how close we are to the conclusion of the anime's main storyline, Ash's World Coronation series run, and the climactic Ash vs. Leon finale, which has just been confirmed to be a three-parter at the very least. That said, for the sake of argument, how exactly could the production team flesh out another 4 months of Journeys content when they have barely scraped their way through the past 4 months, half of which were consumed by breaks and recaps? The obvious answer is to zero in on Go, whose story has been left in limbo following his sudden departure in episode 127. But as much as I would personally like to see a fully expanded Project Mu storyline that fleshes out the anime's most high potential, low delivery subplot in years, I just don't think there's enough gas left in the tank. The series is clearly out of budget, out of resources, and out of time, not to mention that the appetite for Go episodes simply isn't there. And at this point, I think everyone will be eager to wrap up the project and kick off a fresh chapter. As much as I would like to see what could have happened on a pandemic-less beta timeline, whereupon dollars, human resources, and schedules could have been better aligned with ambitions, it is what it is. And even though the series will most likely conclude prior to the release of Scarlet and Violet, I'm hopeful that it can finish strong, as despite the many troubles underpinning the series, it certainly has had its fair share of highs, and it would be a shame to see it go out on a sour note. And as far as I can see, the key to finishing strong at this point is simply to deliver an incredible Ash vs. Leon finale that has viewers on the edges of their seats from start to finish. But what do you think about the status of Pokemon Journeys, about the situation on the production side of things, and about how the series is going to conclude? I'm curious what you think, and as always, let's chat.